In today's episode, I want to share with you a story that was shared with me recently by a friend. And I'd heard this story before, but I couldn't quite remember the details. So when he shared it with me, it was almost like I was hearing it for the first time again. And I immediately thought, yeah, I got to do a podcast episode on this because I see how clearly it relates to my life. And it just helped me shift perspective moving forward. Um, and I feel like it may resonate with you too. And so I thought, why don't I jump on here and share it with everyone in the hopes that it helps you bring some peace to your current situation or any situation you face moving forward. And it's a story of the Chinese farmer. So this is how the story goes. An old poor Chinese farmer had a horse, and he lost his horse one day, and the neighbors came to him and said, "Well, isn't that bad fortune?" And he said, "Maybe." The next day, the horse comes back and brings another horse with him, and everyone in the neighborhood comes to him and says, "Isn't that great fortune?" And he says, "Maybe." And then a few days later, his son attempts to tame the horse and falls off the horse and breaks his leg. And the neighborhood comes and says, "Well, isn't that too bad?" To which the farmer replied, "Maybe." Then the emperor declares war on a local nation and says that all able bodied men have to go to war. But because the Chinese farmer's son had broken his leg, he was spared and he didn't have to go to war. And so the whole neighborhood comes to him and says, "Well, isn't that good fortune?" And he says, "Maybe." And so that just continues on. And you can maybe begin to get the picture of how the farmer is very balanced in his perspective because he understands that the snippet of life that was happening to him at that time is part of a bigger picture. It's almost a small piece of the puzzle. And until you see a bigger part of the picture, you don't understand how this current piece fits in. And so you label it bad because you don't understand how it fits in. Well, how could this happen? Why is this happening to me? But only when life continues to unfold and you look back, you begin to realize, oh, okay, now I see how that event fits into my life perfectly. Of course, that's what was meant to happen because it led me to where I am today. But often in the moment, we can't see that. And so it's just an invitation. That story is a beautiful invitation to just have a balanced outlook on life. If what you're going through right now or what you may go through in the future seems bad, seems upsetting, it may well be in the moment and you should honor those emotions if they're coming up, but don't be quick to judge and write off your life just because that snippet is a terrible situation, because you have no idea how that fits into the bigger picture of how your life will unfold and how it's beautifully moving you exactly where you need to be. God, universe, spirit is moving you in exactly the right direction you need to be. You came here to have all of these experiences, even the ones that we label bad, the ones that you label terrible, are the ones that are there to help you grow. You know, you've heard it many times before, I'm sure, in the personal development, spiritual world, but a seed has to be planted in mud to be nourished and then to grow and to blossom, right? But when you're that seed in the mud, you're covered in darkness. You're like, what's this all for? What's the point of this? Why am I covered in mud? I'm dirty. I'm cold. I can't see. Everything seems a mess. It doesn't feel like I'm progressing. It doesn't look like I'm progressing. And then you look back a month later, 10 years later, 15 years later, 5 months later, whenever it is, after a certain period of time, you look back and you realize, oh, now I get it. And this actually happened to me, 2017. So between 2014, when I finished law school, to 2017, for 4 years, yeah, roughly 4 years, I had invested so much time, money, and energy building online businesses, e-commerce stuff. I was buying and selling stuff on Amazon, on eBay. I'd set up my own affiliate websites. I'd created mobile applications for iOS and Android. And then in 2017, I just hit a wall and I had to make a decision to get a job. And I thought I'd failed. And I was like, why is this happening? I don't get it. I was feeling so much anxiety. I remember I was feeling so much anxiety because I wasn't sure in the direction it, I wasn't sure of the direction life was taking me because I could only see a small piece of the puzzle. I couldn't see how that piece fit into the grand scheme of things in my life. And that was, what, 6 years ago now? And looking back, it was only after 2017 I started my podcast that I went to an entrepreneurs event and met my life coach, who then invited me to a retreat in 2019, who then led me on multiple workshops and events and coaching sessions, and where I met a bunch of people who then became lifelong friends, and they introduced me to other people, and that inspired me to do other types of work. And there's so many other things that happened, but it was because I had to come off that path. That was, my growth had finished, but I couldn't understand that at the time. And so I invite you to just pause when you're feeling anxiety, you're feeling upset, feeling a little bit unsure. Just pause and think, this is part of a bigger piece. This is a small piece of a bigger puzzle. You know, when you put pieces of a puzzle together, you put a few pieces together, you can't see the whole picture. But as you lay each piece down one by one, you're like, okay, I can begin to understand the picture now. I can see it. It's the same thing in our lives. So just don't be quick to come to a conclusion as to what this event means. This event that you're going through right now, this experience that you're going through right now, don't be quick to judge what it means, whether it's good or bad. Just say, maybe, just like the Chinese farmer, maybe. Sending you love. I hope you have a blessed month ahead, and I'll talk to you again soon. One love.